Hi, and welcome to the Leader's Edge, our weekly live interview show where Georgia Donaldson and I, Emily Chiwa, feature successful CEOs and professionals who are so kind to share their stories with us. We want to bring awareness, inspiration, and leadership tips for you to action to help you sharpen your competitive advantage and make a positive impact on your organization and community. Remember, if you are watching us live, you can leave a comment on LinkedIn if you want to ask a question for us to address on the show. So, we are talking today about helping teams find meaning at work. And before we bring on our guest, I'm just gonna have you think about these couple of questions so that you bring that awareness to your mind. Then Georgia will introduce our lovely guest, and then we will dive in. So, oftentimes, I think when people lose drive or their motivation, at the root of what might be happening is their connection to purpose or meaning in their lives or work. So, today, what we want you to think of is this idea of meaning and purpose. Do you feel strongly connected to your purpose? Do you get up every day with that sense of drive and knowing that you're doing whatever you're doing is making a difference and the kind of impact that you want to make? So, as I said, I'll leave you mulling over these two questions, and Georgia is going to introduce Dr. Karine Clay.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Emily. I'm loving the energy around this topic. And I'm loving the guests that we have. We have the honor today of having Dr. Karine Clay as our special guest on the Leader's Edge. Yay, welcome.
Thank you.
So who is she? She's a psychologist and she's an organizational health consultant. So if your organization is under the weather, who are you gonna call? You're gonna call Dr. Clay. Yes. And she is the CEO of Higher Potential for Learning, and that's a consulting and training organization. And it helps organizations and corporate clients to foster a positive, diverse, and inclusive work culture. You may ask me, what is she passionate about? And there are about three things that she's passionate about. There's several others, but the main ones, she's passionate about promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. She's passionate about positive psychology, and she's also passionate about inclusive leadership. And if that's not enough, she's an author. She has a book. Well, one of a few books, I think it is, but the newest one is called Real Talk: Protecting Our Caribbean Kids' Mental Health in the Digital Age. You have a
Oh
copy?
my gosh, what a wonderful topic.
Yes, yes. You know, those kids
Fantastic.
were glued to their screen. Yes. So it's to them. So,
Yeah.
Dr. Clay, it's a pleasure having you. And this topic is a special one. Would you want to just start off by telling us how you came into the space that you are now in, organizational health, development, and so on? Talk to us.
Okay. Well, I am so happy you guys have me here today. I appreciate the invite and I appreciate being able to be here to share your audience. Well, let's see. I wear two hats, as you've already mentioned. I am a clinical psychologist as well as an IO psychologist. So I find myself working a lot with teams and organizations, to create environments that might foster engagement or satisfaction and meaning, basically, right? So I'm not only dealing with the organization as a whole, but also as a person, which happens to be where my drive and passions lie specifically, is ensuring that we deal with each individual, especially when they're struggling with different challenges. I know you had said, this is a conversation. We start off with stories. So that's a big thing for me, right? So I know my biggest story has been with working with people within the Caribbean, Jamaica, and Trinidad specifically when it comes to IO, dealing with burnout. They're struggling with burnout on a regular basis because they've lost all the meaning in all these tasks that they are doing. So they're no longer motivated. So I have found that truly trying to get a team to find connections between their peers as well as with their clients can be a struggle for some people. So we always try to help people rediscover their purpose, right? And with it, rediscover also the energy and the joy of why they're even bothering to come into work in the first place.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
I want you guys to remember that joy and meaning at work is also important, not only at work, but also within our lives, right? And
absolutely. You're speaking to the converted.
Yes.
I know
But
that.
go ahead.
Yes.
I know, but we all expect it to be like, oh, it should just happen, like
Mm-hmm.
just so
Mm.
poof, and it should
Yes.
just
Not that
occur.
we have to cultivate it.
Hmm. And it
Right.
doesn't happen in big ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
those small moments, it's those
Right.
Okay.
small changes.
Yeah.
And that's the part that we have to try to get some of our listeners to recognize. They have to adjust the lens, not
Mm-hmm.
just only to be able to address that in their own lives, but as well as their work life as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that is where the drive came in, I would say, for me, is within the Caribbean, is that we are so driven by this culture of wanting to be successful and go above and beyond, and we
Yes.
forget that there's a purpose behind this. It's not always about the almighty dollar, in the respect of things. That
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
success can be seen and measured in so many different ways, right? And so
Yeah.
yeah, that was where that push and that drive came from me. I started seeing too many people unhappy with
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
their life as well as their work. So that's how I got into
That's
this.
how you got into this. Oh, wow. That's
Nice.
fantastic.
We keep talking about this term meaning, finding meaning at work. It seems nebulous to some people. What is it really to find meaning at work?
Well, for most of my clients, as well as my patients, I would say it's something that has been deeply personal, right, for each individual. But at the core, it's all about us trying to connect to something bigger, not
Mm-hmm.
just only the task, like I said before, at hand, right? So it might be that you are interested in how your work could be impacting others, right? Maybe how your skills or whatever skills you're developing, how that is impacting the company as a whole, or just the individuals on your team, or even with you building relationships, right? I know I keep coming back to the joy of things, but that happiness, that joy is a part of the whole equation, the whole formula.
Yes.
So we don't want people to be ignoring, you know, just the fact of all these boring things that may be happening within work. You're learning with each and every one, right? And we
Mm.
want to find that within the process. I always say to people, the journey is just as important as the destination. So
Mm-hmm.
within those small moments of, you can find purpose and you can find delight, like within a conversation with a coworker, or the satisfaction of solving a problem or contributing to the larger goal. All
Mm-hmm.
of those things are important. So it becomes personal for each individual. You should make sure and find out what is that level of importance for you. What
Yeah.
is the joy that you're finding in this task, in walking into this building and engaging with these individuals? What kind of joy can you find within that?
So I'm curious, right? What if you find no joy? And
Ooh.
because I guess as you said, sometimes we get
Mm.
burnt out. So it becomes difficult for us to connect with those things. And I'm not saying that we have to talk necessarily about burnout, but what if you realize that, or maybe you just lost it. So it's there somewhere,
Hmm. Somewhere under
and
under under the water.
you
Yeah.
lost your connection to it. So I'm
Yeah.
curious as to, is it that maybe you take people through some questions so sort of they can help them reconnect with those, answering some of those questions to see, okay, what is it that I really like here? What is it that I don't like? What are the reasons I first got into this role in the first place or this industry or whatever?
Hmm.
What I'm curious what would you say to that?
Well, this might be a sensitive part that some people might not be happy to hear, but sometimes when we can't find our joy, or as we say, it's missing or is hidden,
Mm-hmm.
it may be hidden by some psychological barriers. Okay,
Mm.
so that's where we pull in. Often people may lose that. And so, coming from that clinical perspective, of the two hats that I wear, things like chronic stress or unresolved personal challenges that you may have, at work or personally within your own life.
Mm-hmm.
Some mental health issues like anxiety, these things can actually cloud your ability to see all the positives that's right
Yes.
in front of you. So, and I know leaders from an organizational lens, because I recognize that many individuals may not be able to see personally where each person is going through.
Mm-hmm.
But if the leaders within these organizations, they might want to look at some barriers from the fact of their employees don't have autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
There may be a struggle with communication. Maybe we're not recognizing people when they're doing certain things. So again, sometimes you can't see your own joy and the own fabulousness of what it is that you're doing
Right.
because also nobody else is recognizing it. I
Yes.
firmly
Mm-hmm.
believe in that saying when I say to somebody, I see you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody says they see you, you're expecting that person to pause and not just look at you in your eyes, but you're also expecting them to pause and wait for your response. Like they are intentional with what it is that's happening between the two of you. And if you are struggling to find it yourself, that leader is supposed to be that coach that is supposed to be, I need to know what can I do to help you see what I already see, you know? And
Yes.
sometimes we need that to assist us through removing the blinders or the veil, because many of us are living behind a mask. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how I would definitely say if you find that it's missing or you can't see it, there is something that is masking it or veiling it and you are not able to discover it at that point. And yes, I may have to ask those core questions and
Yeah.
asking of what is it are you going through right now?
Yeah.
You know, what are some of the things that you feel that you're contributing that is special? If you
Mm-hmm.
yourself cannot identify at least three things within yourself that you find special, that is a concern. When I say to individuals, I'll say maybe to a parent, can you tell me something nice about your child? Do you see something nice about your child? So if I speak to a leader, what can you tell me that you see that has outside of productivity, or you see this person who is your employee?
Mm-hmm.
What positive things and traits, character traits do you
Qualities. Yeah.
see? What
Yes.
qualities do
Yes.
you see in this person? If you can't even name them, then how do you know if that person even knows that it exists? Or if you see it, how are you able to show it and demonstrate it and present it so
Mm-hmm.
that person believes in themselves as much as you believe in them? So those
Yeah.
things are super important.
Yes.
So
That's
Yeah.
powerful.
definitely, yeah, asking those questions, pausing and asking those questions and waiting for the response. Many
Mm-hmm.
people don't wait for
No, we don't
feedback.
wait. We're too busy. We don't necessarily even, I mean, I found it um, impactful when you say, I see you, and you said,
Mm-hmm.
pause and wait, and you
Mm-hmm.
did it, right? And I'm
Yes.
like, so often, you might get a compliment and you don't take it in.
Yes.
You just kind of get a compliment like, thanks, and you got off and you didn't like hear it. It didn't hit you. So
Mm-mm,
it's really so important to pause. And sometimes, it's not that you're not being told, it's just that you're not
mm-mm,
hearing it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As
It's
And,
true.
and and Emily, you know that point. Sometimes we ask somebody, "How you doing?" and we move on. We don't even
Mm-hmm.
get the
we,
response. We
we
move
don't
Yes.
wait.
on.
I know that's just a polite thing to say.
Yes.
We're not
Like,
Yes.
really
do
waiting.
lunch. Let's do lunch, okay? But
Yeah.
I've already left the room, so
Yes. It's
I don't even know
robotic.
when you wanted
Yes.
to do lunch or anything
Yeah,
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
yeah.
But
So
yeah.
it's about. So I think I heard you speaking both to leaders, and I was also sort of I'm saying to people, even if you're not a leader and you're listening to this, and you can do it for yourself,
Yes.
you
Mm-hmm.
can pause and take a check in, and can you answer those questions that
Yes.
Dr. Karine asked us
Mm-hmm.
just
Yes.
now, just pointed out. And if you can't answer it for yourself or for your team, I think sometimes it's helpful, isn't it, to maybe ask three trusted people
Yes.
what they
Mm-hmm.
think it is. So
Yes.
if you can't see it, sometimes, you just need to be reminded. And they will tell you all
Mhm.
these beautiful things. And you're like, oh my God,
I
I
didn't
didn't know
even know
that.
that about myself. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And you go through that. But, even if you're asking someone, you can look on someone's face. You can read their body language. You can read their performances that may have gone from being a 10 and all of a sudden this month you've dropped to like a 3, you
Yeah,
know. And when you walk in and sit down across from that individual and you're like, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, man. I fine, man. I normal. Well, what exactly does that mean? You're no. Are you okay? I sincerely would love to know. Are you okay? Because for you to ask that, that means you are seeing something that maybe I'm sharing with you, but I don't even know that I'm sharing with you. So
mhm,
yes, if I was a high flyer in performance at my job and all of a sudden now I'm not, there's a reason why. Remember, every behavior, there's a reason behind every action and every behavior. So, if that's the case, if you're going to pay attention to all of my successes, and you also are paying attention to some of the deficits and areas that I may be failing, then be ready to listen to me, to hear what's going on that might be impacting my performance, that might be impacting why I don't want to come into work today and I'm going to call in and I'm going to be absent for the next couple of weeks. You know what I mean? There's a reason,
Yes.
yeah.
so
Yes.
asking those questions intentionally are very important.
But
Mhm.
Dr. K, this looks like we need part two.
Oh gosh, I know, I forget.
Yes, yeah. And I think, Emily, we've already spoken about some of the actions. But
Yes,
if
I was
you were
thinking
to
that.
leave us with one,
Mm.
Dr. Clay, what would that one action be for maybe the individual or the organization, whichever one you choose?
I would say we start off with encouraging reflection.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mhm,
start, and that's from the top down or bottom up, however you want to look at it. We start with reflection. We want to encourage individuals within our team to identify what was their why to begin with when they even
Mm-hmm.
started this journey,
mhm,
um, when somebody would ask, well, what made you want to, that look on a person's face when they found that aha moment of why it was that they wanted to do this in the first place. So now, because that excitement has returned and I
yeah,
want to keep the fire lit under it, keep my motivation at a 10 for it, then that means I may need to go and get extra skills. I may need some training. I may need therapy. I may need to take a break and go do meditation or yoga, whatever it is. I need to make sure we reflect on that and work on building intentional relationships
Mm-hmm.
within your team,
Yeah.
within your culture of your organization. Those relationships are extremely important because that's the only way you guys are going to be able to recognize the connections as
Mm-hmm.
well as the disconnections as well. So
Yeah.
mhm.
both ways are important. So being
Yes.
reflective. Yeah.
Ah, beautiful. It's
Beautiful.
really through the connections where we can help to find the meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Emily,
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else we need to say, just for you to close.
I don't think there's anything more to say either.
Oh,
So,
thank
folks,
you.
there you have it. Dr. Karine Clay.
Thank you.
She has given us some really important. I think if you listen to this, you're gonna hear a lot of tips in terms of how to help your team, exactly as we said, find meaning and purpose. And remember that without meaning and purpose, we can lose our
Mm-hmm.
drive, we can lose that
Mm-hmm.
motivation. So when
To have it.
when we realize that we are dipping ourselves, our team, then maybe there's just a need for some more connection to
Mm-hmm.
this. And as you rightly said, Dr. Kirin, those intentional relationships, not transactional ones,
Mm-mm.
intentional,
Intentional ones.
right?
Yes.
Because I think when we leave jobs, and
Mm-hmm.
I've done that so many times, what we miss the most always are the people who we
Mm-hmm.
used to see every day,
Yes.
Yes,
The humanity in
right?
the workplace most
Yeah.
definitely is
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
yes.
So thank you, Dr.
Thank
Kareem,
you.
for this time. I keep saying it wrong. Sorry.
It's okay. It's Karine. It's okay.
Thank you so much for this time. Thank you, Georgia, as usual, for us and
My
having this
pleasure.
space. And thank you, audience, for listening. And please leave us your comments. If you have questions, leave it in on the chat, and we will probably try to address them. Dr.
Mhm.
Karine will probably, who knows,
Yeah.
maybe have the minute to address them on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. So we shall see. Thank
Yes.
you again.
Take
Namaste.
care,
Goodbye.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.